All right, guys, we're back on Southeastern 16, presented by FanDuel. Jay Greeson joins as we get ready to preview Mississippi State versus Northern Illinois. And Jay, Mississippi State, we know, off to a tremendous start this season, 3-0, 34-17 win over Southern Miss. They get the top 15 win. The time gets Arizona State 24-20. They rout Alcorn State 63-0 last week. Things going very well in Starkville, and now they enter this game as 21.5-point favorites against the Huskies.
Well, and I mean, big picture, Blake. I mean, we talked a little bit about it on Monday. Chris and I did about just 3-week surprises. And you've got to put Mississippi State near the top of the list in terms of where we expected them to be and where they are now. And when we did our power rankings, I'd be curious to see where you had them, because I had them 7th. Because if you're going to rank them by their resume in this league, their resume is better than Texas. Their resume is better than Alabama. Their resume is you've got a win over a ranked foe. You got a game at the beginning of the year we thought was going to be tricky at Hattiesburg against a Southern Miss team that may go bowling at the end of the year. And then you, unlike a whole lot of other league teams, completely handled your business over an overmatched foe in Alcorn State. Now, 21.5, Vegas is giving Mississippi State some credit. Apparently, they're tired of losing money on people betting on the Bulldogs. So they're now going to say, if you're going to keep riding the Bulldogs, you're going to have to pay a premium. But look, Jeff Levy and folks, they need to accept their flowers, because this has been a great start. And 2, they got to figure out how they're going to handle success.
Yep. The over-under for this game, I forgot to mention it a second ago, 49.5. This is 3:15 p.m. Central, by the way, on the SEC network. And like you said, I think that 21.5 is kind of fascinating to me, because their opponent, Northern Illinois, 1-1 to start the season, 19-17 win against Holy Cross, 20-9 loss against Maryland. Now, if you're like, wait a second, Northern Illinois, 2 low-scoring games, this should not be a surprise, because Northern Illinois is a team that is going to run the ball. And I think that we remember, Jay, what Northern Illinois did last year, and I think that's going to give some people hesitation, the upset at Notre Dame. And I'm going to give you a number here in just a few minutes as to why, if you're a Northern Illinois fan, based on trends, this may not be a bad spot for you at all. But again, I do think, like you said, this is kind of an interesting one to see, like the perception of Mississippi State, because you mentioned it in terms of just what they've done to this point. How could you possibly be anything other than thrilled about the way they've looked through 3 weeks? And this is another game where, again, you're a 3-touchdown favorite now, and you're getting ready to sort of start the SEC grind next week when you host Tennessee. We talk about look-ahead games all the time and sort of spots, but I don't know. This is a team so far that seem pretty sharp. They seem like a team that's pretty locked in, and I think Jeff Levy, based on the roster he has put together here, I think Vegas is setting that number where it is for a reason, but this is kind of a fascinating one to me, just based on what we get from Mississippi State here in this spot. And can Northern Illinois kind of dictate the way they want to play the game? Because like I mentioned, those first 2 games, no one scores more than 20 points. But as we know, Holy Cross and Maryland are not exactly Mississippi State when it comes to offense.
Completely agree. And I think you're right that they want to run the football, but they've got exactly 1 play through 2 games. And again, they're not playing 2017 Alabama or 2022 Georgia defenses with Holy Cross and Maryland. They have 1 play through 2 games that covered more than 13 yards, and that was a reverse to the wide receiver who got 22 on 1 carry. And the rest of it has been – and that's going to be tough sledding in Starkville with the Cowbells, with a Mississippi State defense that has assuredly been better and more cohesive than we may have expected with all the portal additions in the offseason. And they've hit the ground running defensively. You give up 17 on the road at Southern Miss, an Arizona State team that a lot of people believe has a first-round quarterback and a first-round wide receiver, and you only give up 20, and you throw a donut against an overmatched Alcorn State team. So I've about talked myself into the under more than I have laying the points because, look, Jeff Lebby wants to get out of here healthy and just make certain the check's signed and then have Northern Illinois go back to, I guess, Northern Illinois.
Well, and I look at the numbers here, 96 rushing attempts, 46 passing attempts so far for them in those couple games. So, again, you're looking at it and just being like, all right, they're only averaging 14 points per game. But that's where I think it's a matter of tempo here, right? I feel like that is really what it comes down to. And that's why I like the combination of the 21.5 and the 49.5 for the over-under. But I think maybe the biggest question I have is just simply it's that. Can Northern Illinois score enough points here to keep up? And I know their defense, I think last year, what were they? They were top 5 in total defense last season, but they did have, quite a few guys. And anytime you have a defense like that, people are going to come snag some players, and we know how that works. So transfers, kind of rebuilding. I think if you look at the experience, I think Phil Steele had Northern Illinois as the second least experienced team in the MAC. I think they only had, 4 or 5 returning starters. So could that come into play, like you said, in a cowbell atmosphere in Starkville? That could be something that's worth noting here, I think, in this game. But, specifically, I really do look at this is one of those where it's like, okay, not to knock Alcorn State, but this isn't Alcorn State. This is a team that, again, has done some things in recent years. The Notre Dame thing we mentioned, I think, they've got a good coach. Like, Hammock is a good coach. And I think this is one where if you're Jeff Lebby, I have no doubt all your focus on forget Tennessee, right? Like, it is Northern Illinois, because it actually works out well for them in that, hey, here's the tape from last year. Here's Notre Dame, Northern Illinois. I don't even remember what Notre Dame was in terms of the favorite last year, Jay. I'm sure it was an astronomical number. But very simple. Here's what this team has proven they can do. Yes, they've got some new players, but you can't just sit here and try to walk through this one.
I completely I think you're 100% right that is going to be Jeff Lebby's message. But our 18 to 22-year-old kids going to hear that message, especially every day walking to and from the building, to and from class, hanging out with their buddies. The conversation goes, I can't believe y'all aren't ranked. Why is Mississippi State not ranked? I mean, you guys, do you think you can get to Atlanta? Because that's how college kids are going to talk to their buddies. So, yes, Lebby's message is going to be Tennessee is not who we face this week. And in truth, if he's being honest, who we face this week is in the mirror. Look who you are and handle your business. Don't worry about who is down the road. Worry about who's in front of you. And right now, what's in front of you is the reflection you see in the mirror. It's the hard, man, if you could bottle that, every coach in the country would buy a 55-gallon drum of it. So it is 100% the message in Starkville this week. Will that message be received?
Well, and two, if we want to play the sort of the comparison game, I know Maryland is 3-0, but I think Maryland was picked for the bottom tier in the Big Ten in the preseason. They've beaten Florida Atlantic, Towson, Northern Illinois. They play at Wisconsin this weekend, which we can have a debate about how that could go based on our recent look at Wisconsin. But so we'll get into, I think, again, some interesting numbers here in just a second for this matchup. But let's tell you quickly about our friends that support the channel. And that, of course, is our friends over at GameTime Sidekicks. As you know, officially licensed stainless steel drinkware, all SEC schools, over 350 more universities as well. Everything from stainless steel sippy cups, tumblers, 40-ounce bottles, and shaker cups. Mississippi State fans, get your cups. Use the promo code SE16 for 20% discount. SE16 over at GameTimeSidekicks.com. Also, check out our friends over at ROKFORM. You get a nice discount over there as well. The world's strongest magnetic phone case, extreme protection, super strong magnets, rock lock secure mounting. September, their busiest month of the year of the new iPhone release. SEC 25 for 25% off over at ROKFORM, ROKFORM.com. HOVI.com, and HOVI Dry Goods, our new sponsor here at the channel. HOVI Dry Goods is your new favorite hat. Look no further than the HOVI hats for high-quality headwear with a great fit and unique designs. Our Bad Beat Team of the Week was South Carolina, so you can use the code USC for 15% off over at HOVI Dry Goods. All right, give me some numbers here.
I will say I'm certain the HOVI folks, after the previous week's Bad Beat was abbreviated to the Rebs, I'm certain that they appreciated that the code was not the abbreviation for the South Carolina team, and what that could possibly drum up on some not safe for work internet searching.
Yeah, we don't want to do that for the code. That's is for sure. But if you do want to get some safe for work stuff, I'm going to give you some numbers here. Although this may not be what Mississippi State fans want to hear, but these are just numbers from Phil Steele. I think an interesting stat. I always enjoy these in terms of the matchups. Northern Illinois 6-2 against the spread in their last 8 against SEC teams. Another thing to note: we said the over/under was 49.5. Northern Illinois in their last 6 games after a bye week, 6-0 to the over on that one. So, a couple trends, Jay, worth noting there. I know, as we always do in these videos, we really try to focus on the opponent a bit more. We try to tell you, hey, we know you're a big favorite as an SEC team, but it's a preview. We're trying to just give you some information. Where could things go right? Where could things go wrong? That's how you do it. I'm obviously going to pick Mississippi State to win this game, but again, I don't think you can just look at this as simply another opponent on the schedule. There's a little bit of recent history that tells you that Northern Illinois and their coach does a good job of getting up for these kind of games. But also, it's a different team than last year. And I did look up the number, by the way. I think Notre Dame was a 28.5-point favorite in that game last year in South Bend.
They were, and they won outright, and it sent shockwaves everywhere. As folks watch, as we pick these games and we try to give information from the gambling aspect that I approach, I frequently look early in mismatch games involving SEC teams because that's when your starters are. And I love it. I love situations like this where Mississippi State is 6.5 in the first quarter. So if I can get it under the magic number of 7, look, Mississippi State's going to want to start fast and then let everything else work itself out. I'd be cautious at 21.5. I was thinking under until you unloaded that off a bye week. They're 6-0 to the over, because this is a very doable over if you get a key turnover, special team score. If Mississippi State starts ringing the bell, pun intended, and I mean they can come close to the over on their own ball if Fluff and those guys and Chapin, they start going vertical and run away from some folks. But if I had to play it, and I like you, I'm going to pick Mississippi State to win the game for sure. But I would be tempted either first quarter under the 7 and first half is still under the magic number of 14. It's at 12.5 with better odds. Mississippi State minus 12.5 in the first half.
Yeah, I like the spot for Mississippi State a little bit better than maybe the numbers suggest. I just think, again, that they've had no issue sort of, maybe sort of defying the numbers so far based on what they've done this season. And I just think that, man, they just sort of look like a machine right now. And I think they're going to find ways to score some points here because they seem to be pretty locked in right now. But again, you can't ignore the history with Northern Illinois. And honestly, if that game against Notre Dame last year did not exist, then you know what? We probably would not have spent as much time kind of going into the Northern Illinois side of things. But it does, and you've got, again, a coach in Thomas Hammock who has done a good job there. And they have their system and their style, and they do a really good job of working it. So we'll see how it plays out here. Mississippi State and Northern Illinois, as we said, coming up after that. For Mississippi State, they do start SEC play next week against Tennessee. So there you go. Our thoughts on Mississippi State and Northern Illinois. We appreciate you guys watching as always. Notifications, turn them on. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Give us your score prediction, Mississippi State fans. Are you a little worried about this one? You think it's going to be close, or do you think the Bulldogs continue to do their thing in convincing fashion? Give us your score predictions in the comments. Again, we appreciate you guys watching as always, and we'll talk to you soon here at Southeastern 16.